The past themes of this game jam were always pretty good, so this one's gotta be, right? Let's just wait and find out. Roll of the dice? What the heck? When I saw this theme, for some reason the first thing I thought of was a game like Darkest Dungeon, but with some sort of dice mechanic. I don't think a strategy game would have worked with a dice mechanic, given my background. And so I started thinking a little bit more. I ended up coming up with a theme of using dice rolling mechanic to get your ammo back. For this game jam, we were going to be making a twin stick shooter, where to get all your ammo back and survive, you have to roll through the enemy bullets. This encourages the player to go at enemies and keeps the action up. Think of a game like Enter the Gungeon. It's always better to just keep your distance and stay away from the enemy's bullets. But in our game, you're going to have to go right up into the enemy's faces. From there, I started thinking about what we're going to even need for the game jam, since we're only going to have 48 hours to make a game based around this theme. Speaking of that, I should probably explain what a game jam is for all of you who don't know what it is. A game jam is a little competition where everyone can sign up and they have to make a game based around a theme in a given time frame. This game jam was the GMTK game jam, which is hosted by the YouTuber Mark Brown. This game jam will last 48 hours around the theme of Roll of the Dice. You can interpret that theme however you want. For this jam, I'll be working with my friend Wolfenrod. He'll be doing all the programming while I'll be doing all the art and music and sound effects. Now that I explained what a game jam is, let's get back into the video. So I made a big list of everything we're going to need for this game jam, because I think organizing at the beginning of a game jam always helps the process along the way. With the main mechanic being roll of the dice, I made the main character player this little dice character. We took the theme quite literally. The dice is rolling to get the ammo back. With this character, I had to think about what the theme of the game is going to be. And where can you find dice? A casino. So that's when I started making casino-based enemies. I ended up coming up with 6 weapons and 5 different enemies. And then we also had to figure out an arena. Oh, I can use a roulette table. I quickly made this roulette table to act as the arena. The player will be in the wooden area in the middle, and enemies are going to spawn around the arena from people throwing coins into the roulette table over time. I did a little art magic here and there, and then I ended up with these 5 enemies. The poker chip is your basic enemy that's just going to run at the player. This 7 right here is going to be the basic enemy that just shoots 1 bullet at the player. This card enemy will shoot 3 different bullets at the player, just spread apart a little bit. This slot machine enemy is going to be a big tank type unit with a lot of health but moves a little bit slower. And last, we have this cherry enemy, which will throw bombs at the player, being able to block the player's path and making the player have to think about their movement a little bit more. With these 5 enemies in place, I started looking at the different weapons I'm going to need. Before going any further, I want to let you know about my Discord server. I made this server with a friend of mine who's a streamer on Twitch. We occasionally hang out in the Discord server just talking to everyone. So if you're ever on a weekend where your friends aren't online, join our Discord server and hang out. If you're enjoying the video so far, be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Thanks, and let's get back to the video. Originally, I had thought of 12 different weapons, but I wanted to keep the scope smaller, so I ended up making 6 different weapons. These 6 weapons were the SMG, the sniper, the shotgun, the rifle, the rocket, and the minigun. I wanted these weapons to feel a little bit unique from each other, so we tried to give each one a separate identity. The SMG was the most basic weapon there was. For the sniper, we wanted it to pierce through enemies, and so at its base, it's going to have 2 pierce. Next was the shotgun. The shotgun's identity is, well, it's a shotgun. It shoots 8 different projectiles that are spread apart a little bit. For the rifle, we made it a 3-round burst, making it very good at long distance. The rocket launcher, well, that one's also pretty self-explanatory. It's just going to shoot a rocket that'll explode and deal damage in an area. Last, the minigun. The minigun's identity, it just shoots a shit ton of bullets. Now we needed a system for the player to stay engaged throughout their runs. That's where we just looked at games such as Vampire Survivors or Brotato. We're just going to make a simple upgrade that appears every 30 seconds. We wanted to keep the amount of upgrades small enough that we can implement it within this 48 hours. So we came up with these 9 upgrades. Move 15% faster, shoot 15% faster, bullets deal 1 more damage, gain extra ammo with your roll, small chance that your bullets will explode, heal 1 life, replenish all your ammo, bullets gain 1 pierce, and deal 15% more damage. We wanted these upgrades to be a well-rounded amount of upgrades, but still apply to all the weapons. While some upgrades may be better with certain weapons, such as shooting 15% faster being better with a sniper or a rocket launcher, while the bullets dealing 1 more damage may be better with a minigun, it just let the player focus in on one upgrade and really build their weapon out in a way that made them feel powerful. Moving on from this, I just started making art on a ton of different effects. I did UI elements such as this health dice or this ammo meter. I made the 2 bullets, which I wanted to use a unique style, so I ended up using this blue and green one for the player's bullets and this red and orange one for the enemy's bullets. I made this weapon flash for the player, and for the reload animation, we just made the weapon spin in a circle. I made this small explosion for when the rocket hits or when their bullets explode with the upgrade. I made this bomb for the cherry enemy, and then I just made one base death animation for all the enemies to use. Next up, I made this custom cursor, just so the cursor fits in with the overall art style of the game. There's other small art things that I made, but I won't go over all of them. Next up, I started looking at the music and the sound effects. I wanted the music to have a little bit of variation, as it's going to play throughout the entire game. So I just made this short track. Then I started working on sound effects. This is the first time that I was going to make all the sounds in a game jam from scratch. I then put all these noises into FL Studio, just because FL is what I'm used to using. I started messing with the pitch, the speed, I would EQ some of the frequencies out, and I ended up just making a bunch of different sounds. I made 3 different shooting sounds for every type of gun. On top of this, my programmer already made a pre-made audio system, which will slightly modify the pitch and the volume, just to add a little more variation to each sound. This made the guns feel really nice to use already. And on top of this, we added more polish, such as screen shake, and we made the enemies stop for a brief second, just to really sell the impact. That's when I started moving into the sounds of everything else. I made these awesome button sounds for when you're hovering over a button or click on a button. For the UI, we added an overall run timer, and then we also added a timer above it for when a card will appear. We animated these 2 times, so as the player gets closer to getting a card upgrade, the timer gets a little bit bigger. For some other polish, we added smoke whenever the player dashes. We updated the particle trails behind each of the bullets, so the player's bullets will have a blue trail, while enemy bullets will have a red trail. Throughout this entire process, I continued to play the game between different art assets and making music, just to make sure the game felt balanced and to report any bugs. When we got towards the end, we made this to-do list of everything we have to add. We just went down the list and added one thing after the next, just to make sure the game felt polished. Now that it's getting closer to the end of the jam, we realized we never added credits or a tutorial. For the credits, we had a button on the menu that we were going to add them to. We ended up just removing that button and adding it in the description on itch.io. For the tutorial, we also added it to the page on itch.io, but we also wanted one in the game just in case. So we just made a quick pop-up before the game starts. With this in place, we have an entire gameplay loop, explain to the player how to play, and we have a bunch of variety with weapons and enemies. Looking back, I think we did pretty well. We kept our scope small enough, even though we almost went over a bit trying to add bosses and stuff. We ended up with this cool twin stick shooter, where the main mechanic is quite interesting and has the player using risky movement just to get more ammo back. The gameplay also changes throughout the run as new enemies are introduced and as the player picks their upgrades. After we submitted, we did find a couple bugs, but luckily none of these bugs impacted the gameplay at all. The biggest bug we found is after the run was over, the timer for the upgrade continued. So while you're in the menu, you get offered a card, but it gets reset when the run starts anyways, so it doesn't really matter. Some of the few things that we would have liked to still add is a volume slider for the music and the effects. We could have polished up the damage numbers a little bit, and the biggest thing of feedback that I've gotten so far is that we needed more feedback for when the players actually hit, or just added more effects overall. Now let's fast forward to when the submissions are done. So now that a week has passed, here's the final score we got. For enjoyment, we got 254, which I'm pretty happy with, given there were over 6,000 games. Overall, we got 769. This still puts us in the top 1,000, which I'm also pretty happy with. The presentation and creativity, we got a little bit lower, but overall these scores aren't terrible. Thanks for watching, and if you want somewhere new to hang out, be sure to join the Discord. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to make sure you get notified every time I upload. See ya!